I bet you just like
Hey, everybody. Special guest tonight, so that's the question mark. For those of you that may or may not know, Anthony has, on his wife's side, a relative that's been in the hospital, so he's taking care of family business tonight, and it's him and James. I'm sure they're having a lot of fun at home.
Oh, sure, they always do.
He's probably running around touching all Anthony's stuff. Let me get the chat started. Mike, say hello.
Hey, everybody. We have our special guest, Daisy, down here, our co-producer.
Yes. Well, that one's Gracie.
Oh, sorry, Gracie.
Let's get the chat started here. A little bit different setup tonight, so we could get both of us in frame. Let's check out the chat, see who's already on. Wow, look at that, a whole bunch already.
Nice.
I see Knights of Old. I see Meterog's on. Todd Hobeck. Todd, you're always the first one. I think do you sleep in here?
Was he the one person waiting earlier that I saw?
It probably was, yeah. So tonight's show is going to be a little bit of fun. We have a mixture of stuff going on here. I actually have a script. Normally I just have some loose points, but I wanted to make sure we hit on a few of these key things. See how many we got on. You know what? I came to realize something too the other day. I don't think top chat and how many are watching are the same number.
Interesting.
Because I was watching a live chat last night and there was 19 live chat, but then when you looked at, I went off the chat for a second and watching was like 70.
Yeah, you were saying last week that there was like 5 people watching.
Yeah.
And there was a lot more. There was like 30.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think at one point, whenever I sign off, it'll say like 82 views. And there's no way that in 5 seconds that I had 82 views. So that means, anyway, I'm still learning. So before we get rolling, I found a new beer by Blue Point Brewery. It's called Toasted Lager.
Nice.
So that's what we're going to start with tonight.
Our sponsor for the night.
Well, we have 2 actually.
Blue Point's pretty good.
We also have a German sponsor.
I can actually drink Blue Point.
You're about to. So Mike already ran today, so he's already offset this.
Yeah, I just got back. I'm dehydrated. Need to dehydrate a little bit more.
Perfect.
So
this will be just right.
Another beer will help with that.
A little depression, a little dehydration, it'll be ideal. Yeah. Anyway, you can see some of the comics behind us, and then the original artwork that Mike gave me, actually.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite books. Fantastic Four King Size Special, number 6, and for the longest time it was because of the birth of Franklin. That's why everyone loved this book. But for me, it was always his first appearance, Annihilus' first appearance. Annihilus, however you say it. And I think, selfishly, that would be a great place. Is it good?
It's pretty good. I can do lagers.
Oh, that's good.
It's nice. It's drinkable.
Mm-hmm. Who else jumped on here? Oh, there's a name I haven't seen in a while. Christopher Censullo. I hope I pronounced your name right. Maurice Devereaux, he's here. A.G. Surfer, Yakety Yakety. All right. Chris Winsky. And then the rest of the crew. I don't know if Nick and Doc will check in. I hope they do. Anthony might even check in if he can get James down, which is a task unto itself. So something else this week, and Mike kind of alerted me to it. And for those of you who don't know, there was a Avengers leak, some video leaked. This is kind of my public service announcement. I've been avoiding anything that even says Avengers Endgame on YouTube, on anything. I ignore it, don't look at it, because there's a segment of people out there who just love to spoil stuff for other people.
Oh, yeah, blatantly, yes.
I didn't even, Nerdist had a thing that says leak, and then it says spoiler-free on it, but even to know anything about it, I'm afraid I'll figure it out. So I don't want to know anything.
The latest scam is to put like little GIFs out there, so you may just kind of see a little animated GIF and not realize that's part of the clip.
I know.
So thankfully, Reddit and Twitter were blocking the links.
We're 10 days away.
Yeah, and the Russo brothers made a passionate plea to please don't share.
Yeah, because it ruins it. It's like telling a 7-year-old there's no Santa.
They said do like Doctor Strange does. You saw all the possible combinations of what's going to happen.
Just
be quiet.
Just be quiet. If you do know, just be quiet. Let everyone else enjoy it.
Yes.
Something else I alluded to last week that Mike talked about. Harley Yee had about $100,000 worth of comic books stolen. And for those of you who don't know, they've been recovered, 2 of them almost immediately. And then the rest of them were brought into a dealer in Berkeley, California. The dealer kind of set up a sting thing. He had a video on it. I don't know if he really pulled it off that well, because he gave him like a check and then he canceled the check, which was a great idea because then he had possession of the books. But he didn't close his shop, and they came back immediately. And there was 3 of them, and that could have got bad quick.
Yeah. Go check it out. Fantastic Comics. He did a live feed last night.
Yule or something like that.
Yeah. One of the owners there, his brother.
So it's interesting. He takes a long time to get to it, and he does like a little bit about new comics in the beginning and at the end. So you kind of got to hunt for the story, and he's not a natural storyteller.
No,
so
it was pretty rough.
I had to watch it 3 times so I figured out, okay, this is what happened.
Yeah, it's becoming a big issue now. A lot of these shows. When I was at C2E2, I was right in the middle of that big theft they had going on in Chicago. I was talking to Stephen Ritter and his wife Sharon when they actually were looking at the footage, and they had been alerted to the guy, so they were reviewing the footage with the police, and they quickly caught the person who was doing that theft. And then this one with Harley, where he was just leaving the Berkeley show, and I guess he left his car unattended, which is fairly common to get something to eat. And he came out, and somebody broke into his car and took 2 boxes of his wall books. I saw most of those books at the C2E2 show. And these guys are not smart to begin with, so they took them over to another shop and tried to sell them as is still the case.
The big fear was that these guys would panic and just throw them out.
Right.
And get rid of them, and that's bad for everyone in the hobby because they're not making any more of them.
Exactly.
So, so that's a happy ending. It is kind of a funny video. It's long and a little bit painful, so just use your finger and watch. Tap forward 10 seconds a lot.
Unfortunately, his feed was breaking up. The quality wasn't that great.
He kept putting his icon, and the guy interviewing him was like in I think his mom's bedroom. I don't know what was going on.
He would say, and then all of a sudden and then it would break up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and you what? You what?
It's like listening to old radio.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was good news. Less good news. Mike Saggart, I believe his name is. He's a LCS owner, a longtime LCS owner out of the Syracuse area. And Mike used to frequent the store when he was a kid. And Nick, if you're watching this either live on the rewind, we were wondering, you probably knew the guy because I know you went to school around there. So.
The news broke on comicbook.com, and every so often I'll hear of the guy. He's one of those iconic shop owners in the 70s that was doing comics, and back when nobody else had a comic shop. He fell right out of the 60s, and he was best described as an aging looking John Lennon, though he wasn't that old. I think he was early 60s. And my friends and I used to go to his shop when we were in high school and middle school, and he was a pure comic collector. I mean, you go to his shop and it was one of those hangout places, like iconic. I can think of other places back in the day, like if you were in San Francisco area, there was Comics and Comics, or places like Redbeard's Den, Moondogs, Newberry Comics
up in Boston.
Here we had our own Empire Comics run by Jim and Tony. Those kind of places where you just wanted to hang out at the LCS, and that was Mike's shop. And he got disenfranchised back in 1990, and the last time I saw him, I was actually moving out here to Rochester, and I stopped by, and he said, "Well, I just sold my shop." And I've seen him from time to time over the years, and I've heard of him. And actually, our friend Carl, we see in some local shows, he had almost purchased. Actually, he did purchase that Tales of Suspense 39 you talked about last week. Carl's very good friends with Mike, and so the news broke on comicbook.com. He passed away on Sunday. And I didn't realize, but Kurt Busiek was a big fan of Mike. Kurt went to SU, Syracuse University, and he used to walk the mile over there to the shop every Thursday. Of course, Kurt was known for Astro City, and I think he was.
I loved it when he came back and reinvigorated the Avengers with George Perez.
Yes,
that was a great run, and he used to write in, and there's old comic books where his letters are published. And Stan Soapbox and stuff. So it's kind of cool.
So some guys, Joe Sinnott was a frequent visitor of Mike's shop, and Tom Payer also. But he's gonna be missed. He was an icon in the area. Even when he got into comics, he was still active and trying to promote shows and conventions. I brought a little show and tell here, which this was my second convention I went to back in In
Hold on.
1984.
Nick, pause right now because I know you're going to have to clean your screen off. You love this kind of fanzine stuff.
Yeah. So I had this kicking around, and on the back of this flyer there's actually a picture, and if you look really closely, there's kind of this swashbuckler holding a woman. That was Mike Sager. He had those iconic John Lennon round glasses, the long hair, and always kind of a really cool guy. But this was a convention he had back in '84 in Syracuse. One of those great pure comic shows, and I was just astonished. I had up to that point only seen like new books on the rack, maybe an occasional old Silver Age book, and there was just walls of Golden Age books there. And the creators, and they were so cheap, and that's all they had were comics. But back then, we can see some of the guests that were there. Joe Orzak here, he was a local, and he still is a local Syracuse artist. He created Captain Q's. And then, of course, we have over here Tom Payer did a signature. Roger Stern, who was at every show at the time, just kind of showed up. But you can see
Roger Stern.
Yeah, you can see the guest on here. We actually had John Totalbin was there. George Perez was there. But I remember walking up to this table of special guests at this show, and I'm like, what do you guys do? I had no idea, being a fanboy, that you walked up and got signatures. And these were all free. You would do sketches for free.
That's what it used to be.
And I looked at George Perez, and he kind of looked at me like, what do you want?
He was a kid.
Yeah.
When he was drawn back in the 70s, he was like 23, 24 years old. That really good run he had on the Avengers in the late 70s. Jim Shooter wrote it. And it's just amazing. And I guess he's retiring this year. He announced that he's kind of done. And that's fine. Yeah. But he's still a relatively young guy.
But so this was Mike Sager's shop, Dream Days Comics. He named that after a Maxfield Parrish book. And he was in the business for 20 some years, and always had the books you wanted. He'd sell it to you at fair prices. And in an interview back in 2011 for a local university college paper, he had once said, starting up a shop in the 70s that sold purely comics was very difficult. Everybody was convinced he was selling porn.
Oh yeah.
Nobody believed him because it looked like a head shop.
Empire Comics did.
It was and some seedy things happened in the back room.
They had the beaded thing. When I was a little kid, I didn't know what was behind the beads. I just knew I wasn't allowed back there.
Yeah. But Mike, he persevered and had a great pioneer for the shop. He was actually quoted in Ernie Gerber's photo journal. He was one of the people that actually had books that they photographed. A lot of stories, a lot of books. I mean, his story of how he discovered an Action Number one day was classic, which Carl was part of that discovery. He was a minute too late to get the book.
Yeah.
We could tell a story in a future show.
Yeah. What we'll do is we'll interview Carl next time.
We should. Yeah, Carl's got a lot of stories.
He's kind of a quiet guy, and then when he tells this story, though, his eyes light up. And because it was a once in a lifetime opportunity that he missed by mere minutes.
Yeah, this was our little pass we got to for the show. This was our little ticket stub. Mike was a big Judge Dredd fan.
Dredd, yeah.
He introduced me to Judge Dredd, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Reed Fleming, The Milkman, all of those early independent books. But this was his little card that we gave out at the convention, and his little store stamp is in the back while the store existed. But this was my second convention, and I was sold. I was hooked at that point because up until then, you couldn't find a reliable supply of new books.
No,
I mean, I'd go to supermarkets, I'd go to drugstores, and there's all kinds of places back in the day, pre-internet days, that you had to scour. And this is even before, the early days of the Buyer's Guide, but there wasn't a community that was whole that you can go out there and find issues.
And looking back, and I've talked about this in some of the, the Paper Time Machine videos I do. I can remember waiting anyone in my neighborhood if they were going anywhere near where I knew there might be comics.
You'd bum a ride.
You would bum a ride, and you would sit through hours of horrible.
Oh, the stuff that
like my mom and my grandma going to try on dresses at Sears.
You'd sit in church for 3 hours just to get a minute in the store to get comics.
Or somebody was the best was if someone was going towards one of the Empire Comics locations, which was a rarity because they were in the same town, but it's a big town.
Yeah,
and it was, a 20-minute, half-hour ride. So and that happened very infrequently, but if that happened, I would do anything I had. I would ride in the trunk if I had to get to that comic shop and, get out and get those books. And so what's weird is virtually none of those shops are still around. None of the drugstores that I used to buy books at are even around. And now the weather's broke, so I'm going to take some of the landfill collection, go on a road, and I'm going to video where they all were purchased. Now, some of them are like bowling alleys and TGI Fridays now. But
Tim
Hortons. They used to be either bookstores, comic book shops, or drugstores.
Yeah.
And for me, when I was a kid, drugstores were it. I hear some guys on the community here talking about supermarkets, and Wegmans was the big supermarket around here, and Big M, places like that. They never carried comic books.
True.
If you were lucky, maybe those weird 3-packs that were Whitman coat,
Yeah, they would get the remaindered comics or pre-bundled comics.
Yeah. So really, it was drugstores, and some of my comics now, they have a comic smell to them, but some of them still have that pharmacy smell, and pharmacies still have that smell. So when I walk into a new Rite Aid or a CVS or wherever, that smell, I feel like I get excited, like I'm going to buy a comic book.
It's kind of a blend of like Preparation H and Metamucil.
Do you remember that feeling when you would walk in and see that spinner rack?
Oh,
There's new freaking books on there.
New books on
Not the books that you saw last week, all new books.
Yeah.
And it was so bright and so much color, and you had maybe $2. So you knew back then they were 25 cents. So I can get 8 of these. And you'd be looking like which 8 are gonna, it was a Sophie's Choice moment. Who's not gonna go to? Sorry, Spider-Man. I don't care if you're fighting Sandman again. I don't give a crap about that. Conan's cutting up a wild boar. That's where I'm going.
I recall going to one of those stores and picking up a stack of books and checking out, and it was like $13 or $14. Now he had $10, and I'm like, what? I was like, I was in shock, and I'm like, I had to put books back. Well, what happened was the price went from 25 cents to like 30. And I was just disheartened. I'm like, I can't buy as many books anymore.
There was always that time period, too, where DC and Marvel wouldn't have the same price.
Right.
And that really sucked. Because even if a book was 20 cents, it still took the place of a 25-center if you had a buck.
Yeah.
Because you could still only get $4 for $1. Or 4 books for $1. So
yeah.
The best, when I first started, they were 20 cents.
Yeah.
And you could get 5 for $1. Or the best was when I go to those Empire Comic nickel shows. I get 20 comic books for $1. Now, granted, they were either remainder or no cover at all. When you're a kid, you didn't care.
True.
Like that one that I showed, that Fantastic Four 140. I love that freaking book.
Yeah.
I always wanted to know what the cover looked like.
It used to mess up your mathematic table in your head.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can count by like 30, 35, or then it was 50 cents was easy. 65 wasn't too bad. 75 cents, and you used to be able to just count how much and just know your mathematics.
The other thing that this does to your brain when you're a little kid, everything you quantify in comic books.
True.
Not dollars. It's comic books. Whatever the going rate for comic books.
This burger cost me 4 comics.
Yeah. Do I want
I could starve for a week.
Do I want those French fries for 50 cents, or do I want 2 comics? Or, oh my gosh, look at all those fizz pop bottles over there.
Yeah.
That's $3. Holy crap. That's 12 comic books.
True.
Everything in the kid's mind back when you were that age in the 70s was, how many comic books can I get for this amount of money?
Yeah. So hopefully, you guys had some sort of LCS shop growing up. And if you're fortunate, grew up in the central New York area, you went to Dream Days and maybe knew Mike Saggart, but he was one of a dying breed of.
I always hear
LCS.
at every local show people talking about the guy.
Yeah.
They always talk about the story inevitably ends up about that guy in that store.
I can't count how many times I've asked for his whereabouts, and I heard he appeared at a show in Syracuse last year. I've been going to those shows and hoping to see him again, and I missed my chance. So,
stinks.
Great guy though.
So let's say hello to a few people. I see Discovery Bay's here. Hey, caught your video today. It was pretty cool. I don't know, Regs, if you were here yet, but hey, welcome. Who Dat Comics is here. You really got to be going crazy right now because he's really in the movies. That's kind of his thing other than comics. So this is going to be a crazy week for him to avoid any spoilers.
Go see Shazam.
Yeah, if you know spoilers, Who Dat, don't say anything in the chat here because I read this afterward.
So
Silver Age Dave, you missed it. We cracked open a beer. I'm about to crack another one because my glass got emptied quick.
So I got to say, how cool is it?
Strange. Hey,
how cool is it that there's 2 Captain Marvel movies in the theater at the same time?
Yes.
And the local drive-in is actually doing a double feature. You can see Shazam and you can see Captain Marvel.
Which one?
The vintage one in Avon. Yeah.
Silver Lake, I don't think opens till May.
No, they don't. And vintage is open now. But who would have ever imagined? I mean,
2
Marvel movies and DC movies, but 2 Captain Marvel movies.
And roving gangs usually at that drive-in.
True.
So,
yes, there's always that too.
Last time I was there, it was like the Sharks and the Jets. They were about to get on. Switch
You're
blades.
You're a jet. To your last cigarette.
I'm going to get another beer.
I got to pick up the pace, I guess. I'm falling behind. But yeah, as I said, Mike Sager had a great shop, and hopefully some of you guys watching this had been to a shop in
Who speaks German?
Hefeweizen? What is it?
Hefeweizen, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a Hefeweizen.
Yep. Let's crack that open.
It's kind of like saying like Lowenbrau was German. It's kind of just a style of beer.
Yeah, I like Belgian beer probably the best.
Belgian's good.
Yeah, that's that style.
Yeah.
This seems to be the best. I'm saving that for you, Mike.
Oh, excellent.
Look at that. Well, this one's a little cloudier. Usually when I drink a cloudy beer like that, I will throw an orange in it. Just tastes better.
Yeah.
Anyway, what else we got going on here? Oh, we already kind of covered some of this stuff.
We have some questions from AFTA.
Oh, yes, we do. Alan, we have questions from Alan. Here, this is a good one. And Alan usually shares his answers to these, which I don't read on air.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you can. I know he watches these on the rewind when he's at the station the next morning. Here's the first question: have you ever lent your comics to others at any point in your life for them to read? I got a great one on this. And if you did,
I got one.
Did they come back to you in the same condition you lent them out?
Want me to go first?
Sure.
Well, taking some liberties with the word lent. I involuntarily loaned comics on 2 occasions. The first one actually was my very first comics. I had some Disney books back in, I was 4 years old, and I just lost them. I didn't know where they went to and didn't notice it. Fast forward a couple years later, I was probably 6 years old. I'm at a cousin's house. And I see these comics, and I'm like, wait a minute, I used to have those exact books. Well, this is strange. This is odd. And so my cousin's younger sister said, oh, yeah, he borrowed those from you a couple of years ago. So
years?
Yeah, for 2 years. Yeah. So I was about 4. My very first books I had.
That's a beatable offense.
So you have your Kazar, whatever, number 1, number 5. Yeah. My books are long since gone. My cousins, like I said, I involuntarily loaned them to my cousin. And so I was like, what do I do? I was 6. I don't know. Do I tell my cousin, can I have the books back? And when I'm 6, I don't feel like, too awkward just going up and saying, I'm taking the books back. And that was it. So his sister goes up and, of course, prods him and says, you stole Mike's books. And, of course, he was probably a year older than me at the time, 7 or 8. He had a little tantrum, denied it, went into the room, and then proceeded to tear the book into a million pieces. And he goes, here's your stupid book. So I did involuntarily loan a couple comics to my cousin, and he graciously returned them as confetti.
So was he younger or older?
A year older than me.
Right.
So we were all like, 5, 6, 7 years old at the time. So, it was just one of those weird things where I just happened to see him and was going to take him back.
So he did return it.
Yeah, he returned them.
But second part of Alan's question, not in the same condition.
Not in the same condition.
Does it ever come up?
And a similar event happened. Fast forward, I was probably 15, and a neighbor friend of mine who was getting into comics, I took a box up to his house one day. We were going through the box, as you would do during the summertime. You kind of spread them out and share the wealth.
Because it expanded your collection.
Right.
You get to get theirs.
So we had a great afternoon, and we're reading comics and stuff. I packed them back in my long box. I go home, and fast forward about a month or two, I'm going through the box, and I remember I had back when Marvel was doing their Marvel Handbook. And they had Marvel Handbook, or the Handbook of the Marvel Universe.
Yes. Yep.
So I remember I was going through it one day, and issue number 9, which was the S's, I think it had She-Hulk in it, was missing. I thought, wow, I always bought these books, and I was buying that. Actually bought them at Dream Days Comics at the time. And I'm like, well, whatever. I don't know where it went to. I didn't have that many books. And again, I went to my neighbor's house, and his brother was there, and I said, did I leave any comics here? And he goes, no. And I asked him about, specifically this one issue. And he goes, oh, my brother has that. And I go, wait, how did that happen? Well, it turned out he had taken my Ghost Rider number 81, the last issue of that run from, the 70s, 80s issue run series. Marvel Handbook number 9. And I had a Silver Age Flash 144. He had, I involuntarily loaned comics again to my neighbor. This time I was a little more cautious, and I didn't approach my friend about this.
Sting off?
And yeah. So I told his brother. I said, "Don't say anything. Just one day, go into his room, get the books, give them back to me," which he did. So I got the books back, and then he told him, and it was very awkward for years later because he knew that he had stolen the books from me. And I never bought comics. We never talked about comics after that.
That sucks. It kind of ruined that whole thing.
Yeah, it kind of ruined it. It was always an awkward, delicate moment. So yeah, I've never actually voluntarily loaned comics.
I did one time.
Twice, I've had bad experiences with it.
Well, one time, my cousin, he was 2 years younger than me, and it was I don't remember the exact number. It's the X-Men cover with Arcade on the cover, and it's like they're in a pinball machine.
That's like what is it? The 140, 150? Or no, there's two of them. There's one.
It's earlier. It's like 130s. I want to say.
I know Anthony knows this, but yeah, there's like a 128, 129, 130.
Yeah. Anyway, it's when they're in Murder World, and so it's around Christmas time. I loaned it to him. He got interested in comics, and that was cool. So he was reading them, and it was 2 weeks or so. I get the a stack of books back. That one I get back, and it looked like somebody took like the pointy end of a compass and just went all over the book and just shredded the cover on it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I freaked, and he was my little cousin, so 2 years younger. So there's nothing that I could do about it.
Yeah. It was 123,
and that was the last time I loaned any books out. Now we did have a kid down the street that I used to read books with, in a similar thing. He came into our house. This was back in the 70s, and the neighborhood we lived in was kind of rural, and no one locked their doors.
Yeah.
And my grandma said she saw this kid go in, and he came back out when we were at home one day. Sure enough, half my Avengers collection was missing.
Oh, so there you go.
And my mom called his mom, and she denied it and just said we were picking on him, and I never got the books back.
Yeah.
And I never, hung out with the kid again.
Yeah.
So
I have two more parts of that story. You just reminded me of something.
I want to know before you get into this, do you ever bring that up to your cousin?
Oh, I haven't seen him in like probably 4 or 5 years, but I probably could.
Next time you see him, you gotta bring it up.
Yeah, see if he remembers that.
Yeah.
So our good friend, our local friend Joe, who longtime collector, he's a writer. We're gonna have him on the show hopefully sometime. He told me this story recently. He was born in '48. Longtime collector. He bought Fantastic Four #1 off the rack and other books at the time. But he did have some Golden Age books, and he told me the story recently. He used to buy and sell and trade books from local kids when he was little back in the 50s. And one day, this kid came up with a stack of Golden Age books. And in that stack was Wonder Woman #1. And he's like, wow, this is great. And he ended up trading for the book. I don't know what he said he traded for it. A few other Golden Age books at the time. So
it's a fair trade.
Yeah, he was excited about this thing. So kind of fast forward a day or two, and he said this guy came to the door, and it was the dad of his friend, banging on the door, yelling, screaming, cursing. He goes, "You stole my books." And he goes, "What?" And he goes, "You stole my books." And then Joe realized that these books weren't his friends to trade. It was his dad's collection. So he just kind of liberated the books and gave them to Joe, and they traded some stuff. So long story short, Joe did not return the book. I think he returned some of the books, or he told the guy that
Joe's dad told the guy to buzz off.
Yeah. So
it was a fair trade.
He kept them.
Yeah.
Didn't really know that he had the Wonder Woman #1. But he told me this story because he said years later he sold it for $1. And he sold it in the late 60s, give or take. He said back then, he goes, they had these magazines where they had these classified ads. And he goes, what did I know? I put it in this ad for $1. So he made some money off it, I guess. But he had a nice copy of Wonder Woman #1 that he sold. The other part of the story I was going to mention is from lessons learned in the past with loaning comics out per se. I usually buy books. I think if there's a good book and I want to share with somebody, what I'll do is I'll buy the trade paperback.
Yep.
Or if I find a good deal on a collection, I'll say, here's the book. You want to, take this and read it. It's a great series. I've done that for a few friends over the years. I know one day we were at the Finger Lakes show and you were looking at Astral City, talking about Kurt Busiek. And I was like, you should buy this, hardcover book. It was a great run. Definitely. But to loan out your personal books and, to get them back in any shape, especially in this age of mint books, it's just kind of an
unless it's a reader.
Yeah.
If I had a reader, someone can read it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like my landfill, you can't hurt those books any more than they already are.
So if I loan books, I just give them. I'm like, here, take the books. I'll buy them.
I think it's kind of a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Anthony's done that a lot. He's given me, like he gave me the Gwen Stacy saga, that Avengers book. They're great. Nick and all of us. We all trade books back and forth like that. I got you those anthologies.
Yeah, that's true. You got a couple. You got the horror books.
The EC hardcovers. Ones. They're just nice because you can read them. You can take them with you. I know when I was traveling, I took Challenge of the Unknown with me, And if I took the floppies, I would have been like, carefully turning them.
Yeah.
This is a black and white thing, and I just read it. If it got dog-eared in my, airline bag, I didn't care. I bought it at Ollie's,
Yeah.
For $6 or whatever. So, that's that's kind of becoming my favorite way to read them.
Mm-hmm.
I do like reading digital, though. I do.
That's true. Yeah, it's easy to read.
We have a big iPad, and it's just so easy to read. And it takes the old newsprint, and you get so accustomed to reading the new books that are just glossy. Everything looks like a cover. The colors are deep and beautiful. And then go back and look at some of your old books, because the other day I was looking through my landfill collection, and I did a video on it yesterday. And you forget how newsprint doesn't hold up over time. No. It really becomes faded, and the colors aren't vibrant. And the words aren't great, and it just was weird because I read most of those digitally. Like I have all the Silver Age Marvel books digital all the way up to 2005.
Yeah,
and that's my preferred way of reading.
Yeah,
a perfect example is Walking Dead. I read issue 1 through 100 over like a 3-day span when I first started reading them.
Yeah,
and that was before the show came out, and I had them digitally. So I was I think I had the flu or something. I just hung out and I read on my iPad. I read every single issue 1 through 100.
Yeah.
And and it's just a cool way of reading them.
I think the days of loaning comics are long since gone. I mean, on the chat, some of you guys were saying that, by practice you never loan comics, and
it's like loaning out videos. How many videos back when you used to have DVDs? And you'd never get them back.
Yeah.
And you ask them, hey, where's my? Oh, I loaned that to Larry.
Oh yeah.
Who the hell's Larry? Where's my cousin?
You get the guilt trip.
That's great. Well, call Larry. And he loaned it out to Bill.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. Or DVDs or Blu-rays or CDs that come back all scratched.
Oh,
it wasn't me.
I didn't know anything about it. Yeah.
So loaning's not a great idea. And, basically,
don't share.
Yeah, gift instead.
Unless it's germs.
Yeah, just gift the books. It's a much better way to do that.
Give them away. All right, here's after this next question. Do you tell coworkers you're a collector? And then what are the reactions from them?
Whew. Yeah, this is a touchy one. Want to go first?
Sure.
Go first. So, it's kind of like, or do you want to go first?
Well, when I used to work in an office, which has been 15 years now, but when I did, I would wear comic book T-shirts on Fridays, dress down Fridays, which used to be a thing. Apparently, dress down Fridays every day now in the office world. I didn't realize that happened. I used to have to wear a tie and everything, and then Friday, you wear jeans and a T-shirt or whatever. So I used to always wear, people would say, oh, hey, they'd see Superman, Batman, or whatever.
Yeah.
If you had somebody obscure on your shirt, then they wouldn't know what the hell was going on. But they would know that you collected. Yeah. And I don't know. I never felt that stigma that I hear a lot of guys in the thing talk about. Like in high school, everyone knew I read comic books. So if someone wanted to know something about comic book, they would ask me.
Interesting.
And I never felt that weird, persecution that appears some people got for collecting comics.
Yeah.
I mean, even girls, they would come over.
Wow.
If I was dating a girl and she'd see I had I have them all in my bookcase, all lined up, and they'd say, "What are those?" And I'd say,
"It was like Wolves Bane and Garlic."
Those are my comics, and
amazing. Yeah, and then the extreme, which is Anthony touched on last week, which was even within his family, he didn't talk about collecting comics, and I was kind of in the middle. I didn't talk a lot about it, but I had a network of friends that we collected books, and like I said, we go to the local LCS, Dream Days and a few other comic shops, and it was fun, but we didn't have that community back then. It wasn't as acceptable, and you also didn't have the backing of all of the movies. People sort of knew comics were worth something. So worst case, you talk about the value. If somebody goes, you collect them funny books, you're like, oh yeah, well this is worth $100, and they're like, whoa, really? It's worth money. I remember in high school, I had the motivation, I guess, to do a presentation in front of the class.
I did one too.
And I guess I was passionate enough that it didn't faze me. But what's worse when you're like 15 or 16 years old and doing a oral presentation in front of a class? I did mine on comic books. Looking back, I must have been crazy. But
I did mine in 5th grade. So
I felt invested enough and confident enough that I stood up there and I brought some comic books in. And what I brought in was I talked about the X-Men, and it was the X-Men graphic novel that had come out at the time. Yeah. I think it was called God Loves, Man Kills. Maybe it's backwards. Man loves God, or man kills, God
Man
loves.
and God were in there.
So that was that was kind of a real dramatic, deep graphic
there was
novel.
a lot of politicalness in that.
Yeah. It was kind of kind of comparable of oppression and Jewish oppression and Nazism. But I talked about that in front of the class. But the real kicker is people were kind of half paying attention. I brought a copy of Action Number One in, which was one of those reprint books, which you've had a couple graded recently. And I got to a point where I held up a book and I said, now these books also have a certain value. For example, this comic is worth $10,000, and people suddenly just. You saw kids like just fall over and like, what?
What?
And I remember the teacher kind of looked up and he goes, that book, and he was like nervous, like should we have this in the classroom? And I go, well, this is a reprint. If I had the original, it'd be worth $10,000. And I just got everyone's attention, and questions started pouring out. People were asking, well, what other books are worth money? But it was the hook I got them to, understand that this is sort of a serious medium.
My spin was art. And I had them open to certain pages. And I remember I had George Perez, I had John Byrne, Bob Layton, people like that. I had Sal Buscema, I had them all laid out with their names next to them.
Yeah.
And, it was acceptable, I think, at that point. But we were a lot younger. I mean, 5th grade, you're a lot younger.
Yeah. It's always been difficult until recent years where it's more acceptable.
Well, this now is incredible.
Oh, absolutely.
You have, this YouTube community that everyone's part of is great. And I know there are other groups and communities out there on YouTube, different subjects, and they're not as all kind as this one. This one does have its drama every now and again. You get someone that, starts something up or whatever. You get a little sex and infighting going on, but
sure.
For the most part, it's very supportive, and I don't know. I enjoy seeing what everyone else gets. I enjoy watching a lot of the videos out there and just the fun of it. And I know when I do a video now, it's for these guys out there.
Yeah.
They're watching. I don't have any aspirations of being some giant channel that everyone's gonna watch. And, that's all you're gonna do. It's a very narrow niche, I think.
Yeah.
But it's great that everyone's out there. And the movies definitely helps.
Absolutely.
This is, that the latest. I don't know if any of you have seen it came out today. Marvel Entertainment put out that preview where it shows every movie in chronological
montage.
order.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's really, really cool, and it just really drives home everything.
Yeah.
There's some clunkers in there.
Yeah. Stan Lee has a great video, and if you look for it on YouTube, you'll probably find it. And it was an interview he did some years ago, and he talked about when he used to go to these big, executive type parties and rubbing elbows with other people in the community. And him and Joan would go there, and then people would go up and publishers and producers and people in Hollywood. And I think it was when he moved to Hollywood the first time back in the 80s. People would say, hey, so Stan, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a publisher. And they'd change the topic, and they go, publisher of what? And he goes, I publish magazines.
Well,
what kind of magazines? Yeah. And he kept dodging the question because he said it was very difficult because eventually he would get to the question of publishing comics, and then the whole demeanor would change the conversation. So he goes, for the longest time, it was hard for him, even, as a publisher of Marvel, to really make, headway into this community of people in Hollywood and public opinion. So,
I mean, so much so that he didn't use his real name. Stanley Lieber.
Stan Lieber.
His intention was that he was going to be a real writer someday.
It's correct.
So he didn't want to, as he put it, waste his name on the on the comic book page. That's why he became Stan Lee. That someday he thought Stanley Lieber would be a famous author or playwright or whatever. It's just funny. So how many more people we got showing up here? I saw Cougar Comics. He's kind of local. I think Alex showed up. We got any questions in there?
I like Yickety Yakketies. Yeah, the first rule of Fight Club, comic book collecting, is you don't talk about comic books.
I guess.
But
that's what I hear. That's what I'm learning that you've all taught me. I never felt that. So I guess I'm lucky there. What else have we got going on here with these guys? I can't read that well. I either need to put my glasses on or get longer arms.
Yeah, fortunately now it's in the mainstream media, it's really nice to be able to add to a conversation. I told a number of people recently, that I'm sure they're taking cues from the Infinity Gauntlet stories in the books, and one of those permutations is going to play out in Endgame. So people are asking, what's going to happen, and I'm like, well, if you want to talk about
There's
it,
so many stories about
there's
that, because
something that's going to happen.
They've kind of made an amalgam of, if you think back to like the Avengers annual and then the 2-in-1 annual, because that was dealt with the Cosmic Cube, so that's kind of in there. But in the comic books, the Cosmic Cube wasn't the Tesseract; it was made by AIM.
Yeah, AIM did it.
So AIM built it, so that was different. And then you had the Infinity Gauntlet, and then you had Thanos Quest, and then you had the Infinity Watch. So there's a lot of different storylines, and they've plucked little pieces of all of it, which I get, and it makes for a very condensed, reduced down story.
Yeah,
so it's very concentrated. The only thing is, it's kind of like they're burning up a lot of the storylines.
True.
In one grouping. So unfortunately, the X-Men have done the same thing.
Yeah.
If you think of the best X-Men stories, Days of Future Past, Dark Phoenix Saga, Apocalypse, they've burned through all of those.
Yeah.
And so much so that they scorch the earth that you can't reuse those. So
true.
Whoever is going to resurrect that franchise, they got their work ahead of them. Fantastic Four, I guess, but not so much, because they didn't really they didn't ruin any of the stories.
Yeah.
Everything they did was kind of new.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
Yeah, true. It wasn't good.
The whole story of how Doom was, and everything, and all the different versions of it, they didn't really ruin anything. So we'll see how they handle it. But I hope they handle it how they did Spider-Man. It would be great if they showed up in another movie first. Yeah, they did it with Black Panther. They did it with Spider-Man. They've done it with a number of characters before they got their main movie. Or they might just jump in like they did with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. I think we're all chomping on the bit. I think, as Anthony said, we just want to find out what that button is at the end. What is that trailer? What is going to be the clue as to what the next phase is going to be about?
Yeah.
All we know is going to be about Eternals, and that's going to be, the real kicker is we want to see the end game, but we also want to know what's coming next.
We want to see those post-credit. I wouldn't be surprised if they have 3 post-credits in this.
Anyone that walks out early is going to get a beat down.
No, is that movie 3 hours?
3 hours and 20 minutes.
That's what I thought I saw. Wow, that's a long movie.
Yeah.
Do not get the big gulp going in that movie, or eat a lot of salty popcorn to offset it.
Yeah.
Or Depends.
Yeah. True. Yeah. On IV and Depends.
Yeah, and I looked today. There's 3 theaters that are showing it. Yeah. They're not sold out on any of the theaters.
No. I got my tickets for 10:55 p.m.
Yeah.
So I'll be there until probably 3 a.m.
You're going Friday night?
No, actually they sold out most of the Friday, Thursday, Friday.
I was talking Saturday.
So I was going to do Sunday night, or I'm going to do Tuesday, actually. I figure at some point I'm going to see something that's going to spoil it. But the sooner I see it, the better. So I'm picking the 30th.
Yeah, I'll be on full media lockdown, like on the 25th.
Bird Box.
Yeah, Bird Box.
Put the blindfold
combination
on.
of Bird Box and A Quiet Place, because you can't hear either.
True.
You need both.
Yep.
Got full Helen Keller on this.
Isolation chamber.
Full miracle worker.
Yeah.
I don't want to know anything.
Just buy a case of beer and some Cheetos and pass out.
I did see Marvel announce their TV shows are coming out. Which
Disney Plus,
Vision, Scarlet Witch,
yep.
Which was new. I didn't know that was going to happen. And the odd one to me was Falcon and Winter Soldier are going to get a series.
Yes.
Which I guess that'll probably be like a buddy cop.
Yeah.
I would guess is how they're going to handle that. And then the odd one was What If was going to get a show, I thought, and I was excited that it would be maybe like a Twilight Zone. It's going to be animated.
Okay.
Not that that's not okay, but it's just not as good.
Yeah.
But I guess if you think about it, how could they do that? Because if they want to use the mainstream characters, they're not going to have any Iron Man, because they're not going to bring the big screen people down onto their little screen. But interestingly, right before we came on, I saw DC Universe announce the Swamp Thing. It's coming out May 31st.
Yeah.
And it's just him coming up out of the water.
Yeah.
We'll see how they do with it. It could be really good. We'll see. I haven't seen the Doom Patrol yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's funny. It's just interesting that Brendan Fraser is playing Robot Man, and I can hear his voice in my head, but it's so clunky.
He's always going to be the guy in the Mummy.
But it's goofy. It's goofy. It's fun. Yeah. It's a fun. They don't like Shazam. If you haven't seen Shazam yet, go see it. It makes a lot of fun of the history, but at the same time, it's got some drama and seriousness. I think they got a really good I guess, line that they didn't go where they were like, trying to take the character as serious as he is with a costume. It's hard to do that. But at the same time, it's not hokey, kind of like Thor Ragnarok was a little bit jokey at times.
It got a little too much for me.
But I think that hit the right stride, and Doom Patrol is similar to that.
All right.
It's a good show.
Well, I'm waiting. I figure I'll get that and watch all of the shows.
Yeah.
Over the summer, I kind of wait. I like to watch this stuff with my son.
Yeah.
And he'll be out of school for the summer, so I figure that'll be fun for us to watch.
So
got any wise ass comments?
Yeah. John Valenzuela is going to the drive-in. Okay,
good for him.
At least you can take a nap in your car.
Rock and roll.
That's cool. And yeah, Knights of Old.
He's in California.
When am I going to start doing Golden Age? Actually, I started doing that recently.
Yes.
I think I sent Anthony and Patrick a couple of previews. I ran across a really nice Batman collection recently, and I got a couple of books.
Stay tuned.
So yeah, I think I might put together a Golden Age CGC submission for the near future.
I know that you're starting to see a lot more Golden Age books at shows.
Yeah.
Where you didn't used to, and I think because they're being freed out of collections.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys are either unfortunately passing away, or they're aging out.
Yeah.
And what's great is you got younger guys like Knights of Old and DS Comics and Simon Comics, people like that love this Golden Age stuff coming up behind them, which is great because that'll keep that segment alive. Because otherwise, I don't know, those books are static. The nice thing about being a Golden Age collector is there's not a big spec market on those books. Now, some of the keys there are, but for most of the mainstream books, those prices have been stagnant or the same for 10, 15 years. Yeah, which is great if you're a collector.
Yep.
I'm hoping that it gets to that point with Silver Age.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna, but we'll see.
What's interesting? So it's probably not a big secret. I dig through a lot of collections. Today's one of my days off. I'm not digging through a collection.
Mike did get that big collection, by the way.
Yeah, we'll talk. The CCC, the Comic Closet Collection. I do.
I'm glad you changed that name.
Yeah, not the
he was going all with K's before, and I pointed out what would happen.
But once you start turning that hose on, it turns into like a gusher. Pretty quickly. So a lot of collections have been surfacing, and I've been able to go see a lot of collections.
You get to the point to where you're constantly hunting collections, to where they come and they find you.
Yeah.
And Silver Age Dave talks about this, where he's put out his feelers for so many years
and
now,
it pays off.
that people just out of the blue, like on a Tuesday night at 7, will call him up and say, "Hey, Dave, I got a collection. You want it?" And he's like, "Yeah." And, he goes to crack houses apparently.
It's a first world problem, So I got too many comments.
Well, it's effort is what it is. You put out that much effort, and that many people know. Like I've talked to a lot of state sale people around here, and let them know. That if you get this, let me know, and and what you do is you offer to them, I'll help you figure out what these things are worth.
Oh, absolutely.
And if I can maybe have a shot at some of these.
Yeah. I mean, I could spend hours talking about technique, and I found the best thing that works really is to just be upfront and lay out your cards. And I'll say, I usually say, this is what the value of your collection is at, and this is what I can honestly pay you. And almost dare them to go find someone else to get them a counter offer, because I know
that's what happened with the guy. The guy. I'm going to sell on eBay. I'm going to do this or that. And after about 2 weeks, what happened?
Yeah.
He finds out it's not so easy selling on eBay.
Yeah.
Especially raw books.
And if you want a collection, you have to have a very serious offer. In most cases, people are knowledgeable and they can find prices. And usually they're on the wrong end of the spectrum. Usually they want too much for the book.
Yeah, they look at listings. They don't look at sold.
Yeah. So you have to educate them, and then usually you tell them, I can do a certain percentage of that.
That book's $300.
Yeah.
I can ask for $300.
Oh, I've seen many disgruntled people thinking their books are worth a fortune, and it's like, well, unfortunately, this is a reprint, or nobody's paying a lot for Kicker's Ink #1. Like, well, it's a mint book, and no, sorry, but So back to the question we had with Golden Age. I see a lot of Golden Age books out there, and they don't sell that quickly. Everyone's focusing on the hot Marvels, and I'm taking advantage of that now, and I'm picking up some of these books, and actually I can get a pretty decent timely collection in the short order if I wanted to, because they're out there. They're not cheap, but they're not disappearing like other books are right now. No. So I've been picking up a few here.
So many more EC books too.
Yeah,
they're just Anthony's he's really close to finishing a couple of his runs. He's been on the tear this year.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's getting nice. I mean, for the grades especially, he'll get like a 4 or 5 that presents like a 6.
Yeah.
So that's great. we'll see.
If you can, like Nick says, man up, and pay the price.
Sometimes
the Golden Age books are actually pretty reasonable. There's a lot of room for negotiation on those. I find a lot of dealers have had these books for a while, and the collector base isn't as deep, so you can find some
shrinking every day.
Yeah,
and they know it. The one thing that I've noticed at the shows that it's kind of has me a little bit worried about these shows. One, really nice wall books are going away because guys are worried about that. Yeah, and I notice the age of these dealers is growing every year.
True,
and there are very few young dealers that I see coming up.
Yeah,
like Reese's Comics.
Austin has taken over for Greg and his wife.
Yeah, for his dad. So that's kind of cool.
Greg and Holly.
Some of these people, there's no one coming up behind them, and it just makes you wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah,
we all love going to this thing, and I love going to these shows, but if those guys drop off and they're not there anymore, then what happens?
I've seen a lot of dealers retire in the last couple of years.
Yeah, me too.
Dave Kapolka of North Coast Nostalgia, he just retired this past year. He's still doing shows. Harley E is a machine. But he's getting up there and
slowing down.
His nephew Jay is always out there working for him. So I don't know what he's going to do with that. I'm not sure if he has any kids, but you got Dale Roberts, who I talk to Dale like every couple of weeks, and he's like, I'm just this is hurting. they're on concrete floors for days on end, and he goes, I can't do this forever. But he's got a son, and then of course Bob Storm's our friend.
Yep.
He's got his son there who's doing some of this stuff, but they don't have the passion that these dealers had.
Like Rick doesn't really have.
Yeah. Rick is another
Leroy. I mean, there's a lot
Leroy
of guys
Harper,
out there. They're all in their late 50s, early 60s, and there's just no one coming up behind them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys that had a passion for many decades. What happens is they give this or bequeath or whatever the business to their family, and they usually just sell out more and more. They'll give it to like a big auction house, and look at Bob Bierbaum.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Bob Bierbaum. He said, you know what, I'm going to put everything up on Comic Connect.
Yeah.
And he didn't like other auction houses, and he got out of the business this year. So, they don't have this like family tradition to continue on with it.
So HeroesCon will be fun this year.
Yeah.
So I know I go back and look at the chats, and a lot of the guys are going to be there this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be fun. I'd like to try to we'll try to broadcast from there. I think it'd be kind of fun. Especially if some of the guys in the community show up, then we could all have like a live meetup kind of a thing. I think it'd be really cool. So as we get closer, we'll try to organize something like that. I think that kind of stuff's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So some of the things on the chat here, yes, I can attest personally that pre-code horror prices are on fire. I think I drive that market single-handedly myself.
Yep.
And the nice thing about pre-code horror books is that there's not a big market, not a lot of focus on them, and I've seen prices vary wildly. Anytime you see it, as Nick would say, sit bit, buy it.
Yep.
Because for those pre-code horror books, chances are if the price looks reasonable, it's a killer deal.
Yeah, and you may not see that again for 18 months or 2 years. So you got to grab that stuff. Yeah,
and I've seen actually I saw an example this past week. I bought a pre-code horror book. I just I bid on it on eBay, and I got it for like $120. The exact same book in the exact same condition sold for $500 on the CGC forums.
Using GPA on that stuff is really hard.
Right, and that's the problem is because there's a sparse population.
I mean, you could have $400 or $500 difference in the exact same book in the exact same grade.
So we have here Evan saying that Terry is soon to retire. I'm assuming you're meaning Terry O'Neill.
Yeah, Evan's a big Golden Age collector.
Yeah. I like Terry. Terry's been around for a long time. I'll see Terry in about a week or so. He's going to bring some books out to a show. And I'll be sad to see him
the
go.
Albany show?
Maybe.
Is that Gumba I see on there?
And then so Gumba's saying Marvel books, that is. So Eugene Say has a question. Do either of us have opinions on when to sell mid to low grade Eternals, the first 3 issues? I do. You can go first.
Historically, the best time to sell is between when the trailer drops and before the first preview. That's usually where I've seen, at least for me, where I've gotten the best profit. With the Eternals is a weird one because in the back of my mind, I still wonder, is Kevin Feige just screwing with everybody, where he picked the most obscure reference that he could? Because when he said that, if you watch the interview, he has kind of a wise-ass twinkle in his eye. And maybe he's just playing with
He's going to pull the Serpent Society trick he did
maybe
in San Diego.
Not real. Maybe that's never going to be. maybe there is no Eternals franchise going to happen.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that suck? That people are out there paying the first appearance of Cersei. I saw that book in 98 over $1,000 now. People are paying for that book. Yeah. That book 2 months ago was in dollar boxes.
It's FOMO.
It is total FOMO.
Yeah.
People are paying more for that than they are the issue 1.
Yeah, so I got 2 opinions. One is I'll take John Dr. Von Chilla's stance and say sell all your Eternals now. It's garbage.
Yes.
It's not a great series. If you've got low grade issues in general, I'm talking from a pure investment standpoint, which we don't talk about a lot here.
Yeah.
Is it's a good book to pass along. Anytime you got a book and you want to make a profit, sell it. Low grade books aren't.
We both sent a bunch in.
Yeah,
I have some that are priced 6s and 7s, but I figure now's the time to sell them. I would say, to answer your question, if you have something that's between, say, a 5 and a 7, you can sell it now for double what you paid for it, triple what you paid for it. Sell it, because what people are going to be looking for, the FOMO people, they're going to be looking for 9.6s or higher.
Yeah, exactly.
And you see that with like Captain Marvel 1. Yeah, everyone was excited about that book, but really a 7.0 didn't go for that much. Those crazy numbers you saw were 9.6 and 9.8s.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, it's not a great series. There's thousands and thousands of copies out there.
Yeah.
The real scarcity is in the high grade stuff.
Or as Meterog would tell you, if you have the price variant of number 1,
which I do,
that's a hot book. Yeah. So I've seen 9.8s of that upwards of $2,000. So which just blows my mind. Mm-hmm. It stinks where we were, where we weren't in an area where price variance happened a lot.
Yeah.
Silver Age Dave in Ohio was. He's near Akron, and that was just a hotbed of price variant books. Yeah. So, that's fortunate for them. I think a good place to get those too was out west. I want to see either Colorado or in Arizona.
Yep.
Any more questions in there?
So Gumba says, sell all your Eternals. I agree with that.
Yeah.
The only caveat I would say is,
if you get a 9.8 or 9.6, I would hold it.
Hold on to issue number 3, the Cersei issue.
Yeah, Cersei. Well, 2's hot too, though, because that's the first Celestials. So really, it's kind of to a lesser degree, like Fantastic Four, 48, 49, 50. That's the trilogy, 1, 2, and 3. Those are the 3 books you really, really want to get.
Yeah.
The Celestials have already been in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. So it says here, so Gumba, you've got an FF number 1. I'm guessing you want to have that graded because the comment says drop it off at a show. Interesting. Yeah.
I've heard the lines have been crazy at the shows.
Actually, I did go to the drop-off line at C2E2, and they changed how they do drop-offs. I just mail books directly in. But they had a 2-stage. They didn't explain this very well, which made some people upset. But at the CGC booth, you go up and you sign in like you do at a restaurant, and they tell you, we're going to call you when it's your time to come back.
Buzzy disc?
They take your phone number. So they'll send you a text message. So I walked right up.
Disney pioneered that.
I walked up. Yeah. It was maybe about 3 minutes, and it said, we just want your name and phone number. We'll call you when it's time to process your submission.
Perfect.
I came back in about an hour. I got a text message, came back in an hour, waited maybe 2 or 3 minutes. I gave them my stuff, and then I came back the next day to pick up the book. Now, the problem with that process was they didn't have any description of that. People were up there waiting in the wrong line like for an hour, only to realize they needed to check in first. So only 2 places I know of this year are doing that on-site submission, which was C2E2, and I believe also the other one is going to be Baltimore, I think, if I'm correct. If not, maybe it's Heroes Con, but I think it's Baltimore. They're not doing as many as they used to. It's very expensive to lug all that equipment and people out there on site.
And it really screws up their time because instead of being back to grading books, they're out.
Yeah, everything slows down.
It's a double whammy because not only they're not to help grade the books and get them out, they're bringing more in.
Yeah. So Nick's submissions take longer whenever they're doing on-site grading at the shows.
So of all the people, he got the raw steal. He literally lives 10 minutes from CGC. And he can't pick his books up anymore.
That's right.
They mail them to him now.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the champagne room that he used to have where he'd go in and, wait with his monocle and top hat. And, they knew who he was.
Now they do also allow drop-off at a lot of major shows. Yeah. So if you want to at least eliminate half of the risk, you can drop the books off at the shows.
And if you're going to be there anyway.
But they'll mail them back to you when they're graded.
But you're cutting half the shipping out.
True.
And you're going to be
and
there
half
anyway.
the risk, yeah.
And the risk of it getting damaged.
But
so.
yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I
No.
mean, people send some pretty pricey books through the mail, and most of the big dealers will ship. Like, for example, Terry O'Neill will mail all of his books ahead of time to the East Coast when he does shows. And Harley Yee mails his stuff all over the planet. He'll mail boxes and boxes of stuff all over to Australia, to Europe. A lot of dealers ship their boxes of books around, so they don't think twice about having like $500,000 worth of books in transit.
I watch how he runs his booth, and I always wonder, does he really have any idea what he has? Because he seems so disorganized.
Somewhat. I found some for the first time in 25 years. He gave me a discount at the C2E2 show. First time.
Discounts.
It was a mistake, I think, but I want to say he gave me a discount. I got 10% off.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I probably spent $50,000 with him over the years.
Yeah, if he gave 5%, I would be amazed.
So hopefully he doesn't hear this and charges me more next time.
That Mike.
I'm going to
get my 10%.
I'll charge him.
I'll get my 10% back.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, we're getting close to the end here. Last few minutes. Thanks everyone for stopping in. Anthony, if you're watching this, I hope everything's going well with your family, and everyone else. Thanks for stopping in. I do read comments, so if you do have a question we didn't get to or whatever, just put it in there or put it in the comments afterward. If you're watching this on Rewind, I do read every single comment, and I read every single. I love watching you guys. There's different chains that get going on the chat. That's really fun to watch, and there seemed to be a good mix of guys in tonight. So. And I will say, of the two beers, I like the Blue Point better.
Yeah, the Blue Point's pretty good. Kind of a Duval
Yes.
Hefeweizen tasting beer.
It's toasted lager. That's the winner for tonight.
Yeah, get toasted drinking this lager.
Yes. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Anyway, thank you everyone for stopping. Anything else you got? Mike's going to a show in another week.
Yep. I'll have a couple of days off, and I'll get a breather here, and then back at it. I got a few more collections to look at. I think coming up. There's always something.
Yeah, we have a local comic shop that we both go to. Mike is helping organize a sidewalk sale. It's going to be the day after Free Comic Book Day, which is May 4th this year. So May 5th, if you're in the Rochester area, we'll be out there. Selling our wares, helping out the local shop.
Probably some better books than most comic shows have.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I will say they are better books because these are a lot of books that have never been at the market. I mean, both of us. I mean, you've never actually done a show. I did one a couple of years ago. I'm just looking just to move this stuff. And you've seen the books on our unboxing videos, but a lot of the stuff will be there. And a lot of guys walk up and they're like, I never expected to see this stuff. I have like $10 and I wish I could buy it. And the books go back home with me. So,
all right. Well, thanks for stopping in. Remember, love what you got, not what you want. See y'all next week.
Good night.
And we're out.